Hey guys, back in my awkward angle for the next part of my sort of moving to Korea series, I guess you could call it. I will link as well the first part to this series, which just explained very briefly what happens when you first apply. So have a little look at that as well. And today I'm going to be talking more about, I guess, after I got the paperwork, I sent it all off. I guess, what are some of the things that you might be thinking about in the moving process? If you're going through a recruiter, they're on your side. So talk to them and utilize them. There are a bunch of times I just called my recruiter because I was just stressed. I would link Explore Asia as well below, who are my recruiters and help me through the process. In the lead up, you get a bunch of information from the MOE or SMOE for me. So your MOE is your Metropolitan Office of Education. So for me, Seoul Metropolitan Office of Education or SMOE, they get you to do, as well as EPIK, they get you to do some training online. It's important to note that the SMOE and the, or MOE and the, and EPIK tend to run things a little bit separately. So there is some double handling, double training, double emails, things like that along the way. I guess the first thing that once you get your, you send off your contract, it's signed, you've got the job, it's all good, is that you have to do your visa. So you basically send off your contract to get your visa with a few other bits and pieces. And that process is really easily handled. And you also have to book your flight. So they, like EPIK tells you exactly when, what airport, what times you need to arrive. You send them your information. They shuttle you straight out to the university where you do your orientation. You can get in early. You can just either meet them at the university or come and meet them at the airport and they'll shuttle you out. But your expenses and everything before that time, you obviously have to cover on your own. In terms of packing to come over and what you'll need, my recruiter gave me a list. I found that for me in Seoul, the only thing I really had trouble, thing that I thought that was odd that I had trouble finding here was plain bed sheets, like cotton bed sheets. They don't seem to use just plain cotton bed sheets too often, especially a flat sheet. And pillowcases. But I think everything else, some people said they had trouble finding deodorant, they had trouble finding this stuff and that stuff. I've never had trouble with that. Maybe some things are oddly priced here. And maybe people who are in more regional areas or different provinces have had more trouble, but I really haven't had any trouble with anything apart from my search for bed sheets, I'd say. The other thing is also travel insurance. This is each to their own. When you move to Korea, you have to wait until after you have finished your orientation, come to your school and apply for what's called an alien registration card or an ARC. It's basically your residency card. So once you have that, you're a resident in Korea, you have the same sort of entitlements basically as any Korean citizen. You can travel in and out of the country with it. You don't need to worry about multiple entries on your visa or anything like that. It's just a single entry visa, and then your ARC will supersede all of that. It's a bit like an ID card as well. You use it a lot of the time instead of your passport, so you don't need to be carrying that around with you. But until you come to Korea and have your ARC card, there's a lot of things that you don't have because you're not a resident. So you won't be covered by insurance, you won't be covered by medical insurance, that kind of thing. So if something does happen, I'm a bit of a safety person because I'm a bit bad luck person too. So I just got a month's worth of travel insurance for while I was here, and I think it took nearly a month for me to get my ARC card once I was here or thereabouts. The other thing is that you can't get a phone, Wi-Fi, or a bank account until you have your ARC card. So at the airports, you can buy data only or Wi-Fi only cards or whatever it is. SIM cards that you can use. I would recommend that you probably get one of those because it's not guaranteed that your house has Wi-Fi. A lot of us don't, so we just had to sort of live off Starbucks Wi-Fi until we had our ARC card. And especially in those first few weeks, you do kind of want some attention, or not attention, you want to have some connection, I think is the word, with people back home and letting people know how you're going. And you're a bit, I wouldn't say homesick, but you're just like a bit out of sorts for that beginning few weeks. And then you also don't have a bank account. So you do need to come, like you can use your foreign cards here. I brought cash with me personally. They say about $1,000 US or something like that. In EPIK, we get paid on the 24th day of each month. So if you're interested in what day you'd be getting paid, it's the 24th. Yeah, so we came on the 18th, I think, and it was the 24th of the next month that we got our first pay. So it was over a month. Getting your bank accounts and everything set up, your co-teacher should help you with all of that. They'll take you either straight after school, mine took me during school time, just depends on your school to exactly how they work it. But yeah, they really do help you with everything. And when you're at your EPIK orientation as well, you can ask lots of questions about the pricing and stuff like that. For me, for Wi-Fi, I found that it was easiest to pay maybe like $500 or something like that and buy the 12 months outright. It was the cheapest way to do it, as opposed to paying a lot more to have it month to month. And I went, I don't know if it was KT or LG, and it's unlimited. Same with my phone. My phone is also unlimited. You get like 100 gigabytes of high speed and then the rest is just low speed, but yeah, it's never a problem. There were a few things when I came here that I realized I probably could have done before I left that would have been easier. So I just took a note of those things for you guys as well. The first one is, if you are, like, there are certain countries like Australia and New Zealand, UK, I don't know about the US, that have tax exemption clauses with South Korea. So if you are from one of those countries, it's you will need to bring like a residency certificate with you to show that you're a resident of your home country, that they then submit to their taxation office here so that you aren't double taxed. So just make sure that you do get that beforehand. For me, I had to get my parents to fax it because it wouldn't fax from here, and they didn't have an email or a phone number or anything like that we could send it to. So it said it would take 6 weeks. I think it took 3 months for it to arrive. So yeah, it took a really long time. So I would just recommend trying to get that sorted out beforehand if possible. You'll also need like your is it called a tax file number in Australia, or social security number, I think, if you're in the US, tax registration number in some countries. Whatever your like taxation information is in your respective country, you'll probably need that as well. So remember to bring that with you. If you have things like car insurance or payments that you're making, I know this sounds really simple, but make sure you factor that into account. If you're like moving money around between bank accounts back home, you want to make sure that you just aren't really having to think about those expenditures a lot, or at least I find it easier to, because after a while you sort of forget about that life. So just keep in mind, like, I got all my mail redirected to my parents' house. If you have any loans and stuff like that, just make sure that you keep that information and that money coming out of those accounts in mind as well. You probably don't want to link it with your local accounts, because every time withdrawals are made, you do get charged a fee potentially on both ends. So yeah, just keep that in mind. It's the same with transferring money home. Like, you can get international transfer accounts, which are really easy, but you don't want to do it too often because you will get charged a fee on both ends. Another thing to think about is things like inflation on what you might already have cover for back home. In Australia, you have to have private medical insurance. So on my private medical insurance, if I had cancelled that and then come back, I would have to pay the rate for like a new policy, which obviously policies go up every year. But if you're already a member, your policy doesn't go up at the same rate as for new members. If you can, just think about pausing those things as opposed to cancelling them. If you do intend on coming back, if you don't, then like you decide you want to stay here for a really long time, you can cancel them later. Also keep in mind that a lot of things will need a bit of lead time. Say my medical insurance needed 4 weeks notice to put it on hold, and then another 4 weeks notice for you to submit your paperwork at the other end to then have it start up again. So you just want to make sure you're thinking about those types of things as well. I brought the paperwork with me for when I need to restart my my health insurance, just to make it easier. That's the same with things like gym memberships and stuff like that. I had a really good rate with my gym, and I think that the rate had gone up something like $30 to $40 potentially per month. That's obviously a huge portion of that again. and when I come back, I can just restart it up again at the old rate, and it's not a problem, and I don't have to pay that huge piece of inflation. And also make sure if you have any like online memberships and subscriptions that charge you, you know, $5 a month here, $3 a month there, again, anything that you're sort of leaving behind, just go through it and do a good cull. It's good for the soul if nothing else, but yeah, I just went through and did a big cull of that kind of stuff, because, you know, things get lost along the way. The other thing is with your bank accounts, and again, this is a thing that's each to your own. It depends on the level of trust you have with your parents or with your family, partner, whoever that you, I guess, kind of have looking after your life for you. But mine is my parents. I actually gave like my parents access to my bank account, so they're like a member, or like a, I don't know how to say it, like they can fully access my bank account from their bank accounts to move money around, and they pay for a lot of things for me. And if something came up last minute, if something were to happen to me here and I needed money, I can obviously still access it, but say I had a car accident or something like that, heaven forbid, you know, then I'm not thinking about it. They've got the ability to take care of all of that for me. And then the last thing I made for my family before I left was a bit of an FAQ sheet. It had a list of everything they might need to know about who to contact, where I am, what to do for me here in Korea, as well as close friends and stuff like that, and their mobile numbers and addresses when I was back in Australia. Any like, you know, health insurance information, and I just a whole bunch of like useful information that they might need. And even for when I post stuff home, if I'm posting a reasonable amount of stuff, I might post it to a specific friend or person, but a lot of the time I'll post like one big box back, and then my parents will split up smaller cards or letters and stuff and send them off. So it's easy and good for them to have that information, as opposed to having to send like a million different things from overseas. But it just depends on your situation and stuff like that. So I guess that is the things that I wanted to touch off on. These are kind of the things that will happen. Not necessarily in a specific order, and kind of a lot of the time on top of one another. So that's why it's not like you have to do this and this and this and this and this. But I just wanted to cover up on the information that I was sort of thinking about when I was in the process. As per usual, if you have any questions, if there's anything else that you would like to know about, then please comment down below, slide in on my DMs, let me know what you think, and I will happily oblige and do that for you as well. I hope you enjoy this. I hope you found it informative, and until next time, this is the Kimchi Adventures.